The night was cold and silent, and the wind moved slowly through the dry grass outside. Mara sat alone inside her small metal home near the edge of the human settlement. She drank warm water and looked out the window. The sky was dark and the stars were bright far away. She could see the glowing walls of the defense towers. Nothing strange had happened for weeks, and she liked it that way. She liked peace, and she liked silence then. She heard a soft knock at the door. It was not loud and not fast, just 3 slow knocks. She stood up and listened. The knock came again. She picked up her scanner and walked to the door. No one was supposed to be here. No one ever came to her place unless something was wrong. She touched the scanner to the door and waited for the reading. No weapon detected, no threat found. One life form, small energy trace. Unknown. She opened the door slowly and carefully. There, right outside, was someone sitting on the ground. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were large and golden. Her clothes were torn and her face was torn. In her arms she held a small child who looked almost asleep. The woman did not move. She looked up at Mara and whispered, "We will leave if you don't want us." Mara froze. She did not know what to say. No alien had come this close to the settlement in years. They were not welcome, they were not trusted, but this one was sitting at her door like she had no other place to go, like she was running from something, like she had lost everything. The child in her arms moved and opened its eyes. One eye was golden like the mother, but the other was green like a human. Mara felt a strange feeling inside her. She looked at the woman again. She was hurt and her body was shaking from the cold. "What happened? Why are you here? You need help." The alien woman said nothing more. She only looked down at her child. Her arms held the child tight and close, like she was afraid the world would take the child away. Mara stepped back and opened the door wider. "Come in, you can stay for now." The alien woman nodded slowly and walked inside. Her steps were weak and soft. She sat down near the heater and wrapped the child in a blanket. Mara gave them water. She watched them quietly. She still had many questions, but something told her not to ask. Yet the child looked at her and smiled. Then he spoke. "Thank you." Mara blinked. The voice was soft but clear. It was human, completely human. She looked at the alien mother. "How can he speak like that? Who is he? Where did you get him?" Still, the woman said nothing. She only looked at her child and kissed his forehead. Mara walked to the window. She looked outside. There was no one else, no sound, but she could feel it. Now something was watching, something was near. She turned on the security screen, and there, in the corner, a red light blinked once. A drone. It was close, too close. She turned off the screen and stepped back. Her heart was beating fast. Why was a drone here tonight? Why now? Why after so many quiet nights? She looked at the woman and the child, and something in her heart changed. She could not send them away. Not now, not like this. She brought them food. She gave them dry clothes. And she locked the door tight. The child slept. The woman stayed awake. Her eyes never closed. She was listening, waiting, afraid. Mara sat down near her tools. She picked up an old rifle and checked it. Still working, still strong, just in case. She looked at the door, at the walls, at the stars outside. Who were they really? Why did the woman come here, and why did her child speak like a human? Mara did not have answers, but deep inside she felt one thing clearly. This night was only the beginning, and something was coming. The morning came slow and heavy like a memory. No one wants to remember. The sky outside was dull and gray, like it had not slept. Inside the small metal house, the air was still and cold. Mara stood near the door with a pulse scanner in her hand. The woman and the child had not moved much during the night. The mother sat on the floor in the same spot, her arms still wrapped around the child like a shield made of silence. Mara did not sleep, not even for a second. Her eyes watched everything, her ears listened to every sound, her mind repeated the same words again and again. "We will leave if you don't want." She had heard many strange things in her life, but none of them shook her like those few words. They were not a threat, they were not a lie, they were just sad and full of something deeper than fear. The child was awake now. He looked at Mara and gave her a look. No child should know a look too full of questions, too full of time. His eyes held both curiosity and pain, like he remembered something from before he was born. Mara knelt down beside him. "What is your name?" The child looked at his mother. She nodded once. The boy turned back to Mara and spoke. "They call me." Eli's voice was calm and clear, no stutter, no mistake, just words that cut through the air like a memory you can't forget. Mara stared. That name, that voice, that tone, it was not just human, it was trained, taught, as if someone had spoken to him for years, years that should not exist for a child his size. "Where are you from, Eli? Who is your father?" The mother looked. The way her body stiffened, her hands tightened around the cloth of her robe. She was holding something inside her, something she was not ready to share. Eli looked down and spoke again. He was human. He wore a red mark on his shoulder. He smiled like light. "He called me Little Star." Mara felt the breath leave her chest for a second. She knew what the red mark meant. It was the symbol of the 7th Earth Expedition, a team of explorers and scientists sent 5 years ago into the neutral zone. They never came back. Official reports said they vanished after contact with a hostile alien species. Now she was looking at proof, living proof, that not all of them had died, and that one had left behind more than just memories. She stood up and walked to the old data board near the wall. She opened a file hidden deep in the system. A message saved by her brother before he disappeared with the 7th. "Mara, if this reaches you, and I hope it does, know that not everything out here is what they told us. We Found something, we found someone, and if I don't come back it means I chose not to tell Mom I was happy. She closed the file with shaking hands, then turned to the woman. You saved him, didn't you? You saved my brother. The alien woman finally spoke. Her voice was soft and full of wind. I saved him and he saved me, and then they came, burning, breaking, killing everything that moved. Mara sat down slowly. Her legs felt weak like paper. She looked at Eli again. So much life in such a small frame, so much story behind those bright green and gold eyes. Why? Come here. Why now? The mother looked her straight in the eyes. Because they are hunting him now. Because your people do not want him to live. Because some truths are too dangerous to keep alive. Suddenly, the scanner in Mara's hand beeped a signal, small, fast moving outside the range of the house. A silent drone, no bigger than a bird, but carrying eyes, carrying ears, and maybe carrying death. She turned off the scanner and moved fast to the window. Nothing in sight, just dust and broken light, but she knew something was near, something not sent by accident. They found you, she whispered, or they found Mesh. Looked at the two sitting on the floor. They were calm, too calm, like they had expected this. From the moment they knocked. We cannot stay here, she said. They will send more. They always send more. The woman stood. So did the child. Mara opened a hidden panel behind the food shelf. Inside was a tunnel, old, narrow, but still working. We go now. No more questions, not until we are far away. Looked at her with eyes full of light. Thank you for not sending us away. Mara said nothing. She just nodded once and led them into the dark outside. The wind whispered through the grass again, but this time something else whispered with it, a machine voice, cold and waiting. Target found, awaiting orders. And the silence of the land was no longer safe. The tunnel was cold and narrow and full of old dust. Mara moved first with the torch in her hand. The light flickered against the rusted walls. Behind her walked the woman with Eli in her arms. Their steps were quiet, but the silence still felt heavy. Every sound in the tunnel seemed too loud. Every breath felt like it echoed through years. No one had used these escape tunnels for a long time. Built during the First Contact War, forgotten after peace was signed, buried under soil and politics, but Mara remembered them all. Her father helped design them. He always said if peace ever fails, the way out must never close. They walked for an hour, then stopped near an old supply hatch. Mara opened the panel. Still working, still warm. She handed water to the mother and offered a food bar to Eli. He took it slowly and smiled before taking a bite. She watched him, trying to read him, trying to understand how something so human came from something so alien. Eli looked at her with calm eyes. You are thinking too loud. Mara blinked. What do you mean? I hear your heart. It speaks in questions. Mara looked at the woman. Is he always like this? The mother gave a soft nod. He listens to everything, even things you do not. Samara sat down on a crate. She wiped sweat from her face. She looked at the scanner, still clear. No signal, no sound, but she did not relax. They found you once. They will try again. How long can we keep running? The woman looked down. We never stopped running, not since the day the sky turned red. Mara felt the weight of that memory. The war, the fear, the burning ships above cities, the screams that never made it to the news feeds. She was a child then, but the sound still lived in her dreams. You were there, weren't you? You saw what they did. The woman nodded. They called us monsters, they called us liars, but we only wanted to live then. Why take one of ours? Why take my brother? We did not take. He chose to stay. He saw us. He saw the truth. Mara closed her eyes. His voice still echoed in her memories. He was not a soldier. He was a healer, a scientist. He believed in peace. And now his child sat before her with eyes from two worlds. I want to believe you, but something does not fit. If you were hiding, why come back to human space? Why risk everything? Because the ones who started the war are still out there. And they are hunting again. Not just us, not just Eli, but every truth buried under silence. Mara stood up. She reached into the supply wall and pulled out an old case. Inside was a badge, black with silver wings, her brother's mark. She handed it to Eli. He held it tight like it meant something more than words. He wore this when he met my mother. He never took it off. Mara felt her throat tighten. She turned away and looked down. The tunnel, they had to move. They had to find a place safe enough to think, if such a place still existed. We keep going. There's a station up north. Off-grid, no patrols, no drones. If we can reach it, we might find answers. The woman nodded. Eli held her hand and walked beside her. They moved again, deeper into the dark. The tunnel grew older, walls cracked, lights broken. But the path remained, in a sound faint but real, a buzz, a hum, a presence that did not belong. Mara raised her hand. Stop, she listened. Another sound, footsteps, slow, careful, measured. She pulled out her rifle, held it close, eyes on the corner ahead. Day shadow appeared, tall, wearing armor. Human design, but old, not standard issue. Whoever it was, they knew the tunnels. They walked like someone who belonged. Mara aimed, step into the light. Now the figure stopped, then raised both hands. Voice calm, low. Mara. Its mesh froze. That voice, no, it could not. Beatty. Figure stepped closer. Light hit his face. A face she knew. A face she thought lost forever. Brother alive, changed, but Alivea not real, she whispered. He nodded. I wish I wasn't, but I had to come. They know you're with them. You're not safe anymore. She lowered her weapon. Her hand shook. How did you survive? He looked at the child. I didn't, not the way you think, and with those words Everything she believed began to fall apart. The war, the peace, the story she was told. Mara looked at the boy, looked at the woman, and felt the weight of a world she never understood pressing down on her chest. The ghosts from the war had returned, but they were not dead. They were never dead. They were just waiting. The tunnel air felt thicker now, not because of dust or heat, but because of truth. It was hanging between them, heavy, sharp, real. Stood still, her eyes locked on the man in front of her, the man who looked like her brother, the man who sounded like him, the man who was supposed to be dead. He stepped closer, slowly, hands still raised. His armor, scratched and burned, old tech, not Earth standard, but something else, something mixed. She wanted to move, wanted to run, wanted to ask 100 questions, but her voice would not commit. "It's really me," he said again. "It's Eric." The name struck like thunder in her bones. She remembered the way he laughed, the way he held her hand when she was afraid of the dark, the way he promised to return. "You said you were happy," she whispered. He nodded. "Once I was, but not in the way you think." Behind Mara, the woman stepped forward. Her eyes watched Eric with something deep, not fear, not anger, something older than both. "You stayed with us," she said. He turned to her. "Yes, I chose to stay because I saw what no one else would. Because I saw the lies buried under orders. Still I stepped between them." His small hand touched Eric's arm. "You taught me the stars." Eric smiled. "And you remembered every name." Mara looked at them, her mind spinning. She pointed to the scanner still in her hand. "Then why are they chasing you? Why is Earth sending drones? Why are they hunting your son?" "Because he exists," Eric said. "Because he proves they lied." "What lied?" "That the war was started by monsters, that peace was never possible, that they had no soul, no heart, no voice." Mara's throat burned. "They told us your team was killed, that aliens attacked without warning, that there was no chance. They told you what they needed to keep control, to keep fear alive, to hide what we found." Mara stepped back, her knees weak, her mind caught between memory and fire. "You had a choice. You left us." "No," he said. "I stayed for them because I saw a future that needed someone to believe in." The tunnel groaned with a soft echo, metal shifting, wind whispering through cracks. Mara sat on a crate, her hands shaking. All this time she blamed the stars for taking him, but he was never lost. He was hiding truth in the dark. "We need to move," he said. "They are watching the exits. They know you're here." "How do you know?" "Because I still have a friend on the inside, but that friend is running out of time." Mara stood again, her heart now filled with fire and ice. She looked at Eli, at the boy who should not exist, at the child who carried 2 worlds in his blood. "What does he have to do with all this? Why is he so important?" "Because he is the bridge," Eric said. "Because he is the question they cannot answer, and the answer they cannot deprivate." Woman placed her hand on Eli's shoulder. "He is more than their fear. He is what comes after fear." The silence grew heavier. Then a small vibration buzzed in Mara's scanner. She checked it fast. Signal locked. Incoming transmission. She opened the message. A voice came through, broken fast. "Mara, you have to leave now. They activated purge code. They are coming for all of you." "Run." "Who was that?" she asked. "Last friend I had in command," Eric replied. Mara looked around. They had to move. Now Eric led them through a hidden side tunnel. It twisted through rock and old steel, past broken lights and cracked pipes, then opened into an abandoned transport by ships rested under dust. One still glowed faint with power. Eric pointed. "That one still works, barely, but enough." They ran toward it. Eli looked back once, something in his eyes glowing faint, something not human, not alien, something more. They boarded the ship. Eric took the pilot's seat. Mara sat beside him. The woman held Eli close. The engines roared to life. Dust flew, metal groaned. Then from the tunnel entrance, a shadow moved. A drone flew in its red eye. Blinking, Eric fired once. The drone shattered. In sparks they lifted off. The roof above them opened slowly. Then the ship shot into the sky below. Dust swallowed the tunnel again, and the silence returned. But not for long. Above the clouds, Eric set course for the old station, the one off-grid, hidden in the void. Mara leaned back, her mind still spinning. Her brother was alive. Her world was not what it seemed, and in the seat behind her, a child held a truth that could burn empires or build peace. No one spoke, but they all knew one thing now: there was no turning back. The stars outside the cockpit window looked colder than before, not distant, not beautiful, just quiet and waiting, like they knew what was coming. Eric held the controls tight. His hands moved like they remembered this ship from long ago, like it had once saved his life. Now it would have to do it again. Beside him, Mara sat with eyes locked on the radar screen. Every few seconds a pulse returned. Clear for now. But nothing stayed clear for long. Behind them, the woman held Eli close. The boy slept. But even in sleep, his fingers moved like they were tracing something in the air. Patterns, shapes, words without sound. Mara turned her head. "How far to the station?" Eric checked the screen. 30 minutes. If we keep low, 15. If we go high and fast. "But they will see us." Mara thought for a moment. Her mind pulled between speed and stealth. Then she looked back at Eli. 15. Eric nodded. Engines roared louder. The ship rose higher, breaking through the low clouds like a blade through old paper. Screamed, metal shook, but the ship held together below them. The colony shrank to dust. The towers, the bunkers, the place Mara once called home, gone behind them. Now she thought of her father, her mother, the people who believed the war was over, people who trusted walls and rules and silence. They never saw the truth. They never wanted to. A red light flashed. Eric saw it first. Inbound signature, fast, multiple. Mara checked the screen. 3 ships, Earth class interceptors. They are locking on. Eric gripped the throttle. Not today. The ship twisted left, engine screamed. A burst of speed pulled them toward the edge of the atmosphere. The first blast missed by inches, the second scraped the hull. Sparks flew. The cabin lights blinked. Hold on, Mara braced herself. The woman held Eli tighter. The boy did not wake. Eric fired countermeasures. The back of the ship lit with smoke and light missiles lost their track, for now they passed through a cloud wall. The world below vanished. Only sky above, only fear inside. We need to go, Doc, Mara said. We cannot outrun them forever. Eric pointed at the ridge ahead. They're an old mining ark abandoned before the war. We land inside and shut everything down. Mara agreed. She tapped the controls, lowering power, cooling the core. Ship dipped fast, too fast. The ground came closer. Dust rose, wings shook. Then metal met metal, landing rough but real. They had made it. For now, Rick shut down the core, all systems cold. No signal, no light. They sat in silence. No one spoke outside the interceptors. Passed by fast searching hunting butts, they moved on. No life detected, no heat, no trace inside the dark ship. Breaths slowed. Hearts steadied. That was too close, Mara whispered. Eric stood. We cannot do that again. Next time they will bring more. Eli opened his eyes. He looked around. Then at Mara. They are afraid of mesh. Knelt beside him. Why? Because I am something they did not plan. Because I make the walls crack. Because I remember things I was never told. The woman touched his face. You must rest now. We are not safe yet. Eric walked to the back of the ship, opened a storage crate inside. An old suit marked with the red insignia of the lost expedition. Mara ran her fingers across the patch. You really did stay. He looked at her. Would you have gone? If you saw what I saw, she said. Nothing, but her eyes answered for her. Outside, the wind began to pick up. Dust clouds rose. A storm was coming. We wait here until night. Then we fly low. One more jump to the station. Mara nodded. What about supply? For 2 days, no weapons but this. He held up a small plasma pistol, half charge. One shot if lucky. Mara took it, just in case. She sat near Eli. The boy looked at her. Are you afraid? Yes, she answered. Me too, he said, but not of them. I am afraid of what comes. After. What do you mean? When they see what I am, they will have to choose what to accept or to erase. Mara looked at Eric, then back at Eli. Her voice low. We will protect you no matter what. The boy smiled a sad smile, like he already knew the cost. Day passed slow. The storm outside grew louder, but inside the ship, they waited. 3 worlds joined by one truth. When night came, they would rise again toward the final place where the past and future would meet. And in the dark, the stars began to listen. The night sky looked heavier than it ever had before, like it carried the weight of every secret ever buried, like it knew what choice would soon be made. The storm outside the mining ark had slowed. Only soft winds now, only distant thunder. But inside the old ship there was no peace, only silence, only breath. Eric sat near the main console, wiring old systems together with fast fingers, trying to give the ship one more chance to run. Not far, just far enough. Mara stood by the door, eyes locked on the scanner. Still no movement, still no signal, but she could feel it coming behind them. The woman watched Eli sleep. His head rested on her lap, his hands still glowing, faint energy pulsing under his skin like a silent storm of his own. He had not spoken in hours, but his dreams whispered things no one else could hear, things from long ago, things not yet born. Eric closed the panel and stood. The ship is ready, but if they catch us in flight, we will not make it. Mara turned. Then we do not run, not yet. What do you mean? We give them a choice. We show them what they fear. We show them the truth. They will not listen. They have to. If we run, they will chase. If we hide, they will find us. If we fight, they will destroy us. But if we stand, they might. Hirak stepped closer. You were never one to gambling. I'm not gambling. I am deciding. Outside, a low hum began to rise. Mara checked the scanner again. A new signal, larger, slower. Command ship class. They found us. Eric said no. They want to talk. How do you know? Because if they wanted to end us, we would already be gone. The woman looked at Mara. If you speak for us, they will listen. No, Mara said. I will not speak for you. You will speak for yourself, and I will stand beside you. Eric walked to the communication panel. He sent out a signal, short, clear. We are here. We will not run. If you want the truth, come and listen. For 5 long minutes there was no reply. Only wind, only silence. Then a voice came through, flat, calm. High Command Fleet Representative, you are ordered to stand down, surrender the hybrid child. No harm will come to you. Mara picked up the transmitter. He is not a weapon. He is not a secret. He is not yours. The voice paused, then returned. If you resist, you will be removed. Eric stepped forward. I was one of you. I saw what they tried to destroy. I stayed because I believed in something better. That boy is not your enemy. He is your chance. That voice returned, colder now. 1 hour to decide. Mara looked at Eli, still asleep, still glowing, still caught between 2 worlds. She touched his hand. He opened his eyes. The glow faded. He looked at her with no fear. You heard them. She said, yes. What do we tell? Let them see. If they will try to take you, then we show them why they should not. Eric opened the door. Wind rushed in, dust filled the air. In the distance, lights appeared. 5 ships hovering, watching. Mara stepped out first, then the woman with Eli beside her, then Eric. The 3 of them walked into the wind. No weapons, no shields, only truth. A transport landed ahead. Doors opened. A figure stepped out, military uniform, cold eyes. Mara raised her voice. You came for answers, so listen. The officer said nothing, only stared. Eli stepped forward. His hands lit again, not bright, not violent, just warm. He reached toward the officer. The man flinched but did not step back. I am not here to hurt you, Eli said. I am not a mistake. I am a bridge. The officer looked at Mara. Is this what you stand for now? Yes, she replied, because I remember when you did too behind them. The ship hummed softly, still ready to flee if needed, still holding hope. The officer looked at Eli again. What a youth boy smiled. I am what comes next. No one moved. No one spoke then for the first time. The officer lowered his weapon, not a word, just a signal to the others. Stand down. Lights dimmed, guns lowered, tension cracked. Mara breathed. Eric smiled. The woman cried. They had not won, but they had not lost. Stand. Sometimes that was enough. The dust began to fall slowly like ashes after a long fire, soft and tired and floating across the silent valley between two forces that no longer aimed to kill. The officer stood without moving, his weapon still down, his eyes locked on the boy standing in the wind with a light that did not burn, a light that only warmed. Light stepped forward again. One small step in a world that always feared what it could not understand, but this time no one shouted, no one raised a gun, no one gave the order to fire. The woman stood behind him, her breath calm, her hands no longer trembling. She had waited so long to stop running, to stop hiding, to be seen without being hunted. Mara looked from the officer to the boy. She watched history unfold, without war, without fire, without blood. Eric said nothing. He knew some moments needed no voice, only presence, only courage. He raised his hand toward the officer, his fingers glowing soft like the color of morning, a glow born from both worlds, human and not heart and mind, memory and hope. You do not have to fear me, he said. You only have to see me. The officer did not move for a long moment, then slowly he reached out his hand and touched the glow. There was no blast, no pain, no alarmingly light, and in that light the officer saw things he had never known. The face of a man with a red patch, laughing, teaching, sharing his last rations with a woman who had lost everything. He saw the boy being born not with war but with wonder, not with pain but with purpose. He pulled his hand back, tears in his eyes, not weakness, just truth. He looked at Mara. You were right. She nodded once. She had no anger left, only relief. The officer turned and gave a command. Broadcast open. Send it everywhere. No filters, no edits. Say. Soldier nearby blinked. You are sure, sir? Yes. Let them all see. Signals spread across the colony, across the stations, across the ships orbiting far above. It reached homes where families waited in fear. It reached control rooms where generals sat in shadow. It reached news feeds that once showed only fire. Now they showed a child with golden and green eyes, smiling, speaking, living. I was born between two worlds, not to choose one but to carry both forward. If you reject me, you reject yourselves. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of breath, being held of walls beginning to crack in sight. The ship. Mara sat and watched the message echo through the galaxy. She looked at Eric. You gave everything for this. He smiled. And I would again. The woman sat beside them, her hands folded over her chest, her eyes no longer searching the sky. Silai walked into the ship slowly, the glow now dim but still there. They saw, he said, some will hate but some will hope. That is enough. Eric looked at the scanner. New ships approaching, not interceptors, not warships, medical science, diplomatic. They are coming to talk, he said. Mara breathed deeply. So this is what change looks like. Not banners, not victory songs, just a boy in the dust and a voice finally heard. The wind had stopped. The stars had shifted as if making room for something new, a future that was not written by fear. The officer returned to them. We cannot erase what was done, but we can begin something else. He looked at Eli. What do you need? Eli looked at his mother, at Mara, at Eric. He smiled. A place to grow, a place to speak, a place where no child is born. Hunted. The officer nodded. Then we begin. Their words spread fast. Some cheered, some cried, some called it betrayal, but the truth had been shown, and truth never goes back to sleep. Weeks passed, then months. Peace talks began again, but this time with chairs for voices never heard before. Mara took a role she never expected, not as a soldier, not as a survivor, but as a witness. Eric helped rebuild the data lost in silence. He showed them files that had been buried, proof of the things they feared, proof of what they had almost thrown. The woman joined a council, one built with both humans and others, her voice soft but strong, her story no longer whispered on Eli. He grew not into a weapon but into a bridge. His school welcomed every kind. Human, hybrid, alien. He taught them what it meant to be more than a label. He taught them to listen. Years past. The red mark that once meant fear now stood for unity. They remembered what happened, but they chose to move forward, not with blind trust but with open eyes, because in the end they were not so different. They had just forgotten how to look.